From the CISO series, it's Cybersecurity Headlines.
Welcome one and all to the Department of Know, your Monday cybersecurity stand-up. I am, of course, your host, Rich Stroffolino, and this is where we kick off the week by looking at the stories, trends, and issues that should be on your radars as a security professional. Just your radar. If you have multiple radars, maybe you are too confused. One radar as a security professional. Thanks to our sponsor for today, ThreatLocker. Assume everything is a threat. They're helping make this show possible. Also helping make the show possible in a very physical and real sense are the people joining me, Davi Ottenheimer, the VP of Digital Trust and Ethics over at Inrupt, and Rob Teal, Field CTO at GigaOM, both proud veterans of our Week in Review show. Davi, it's great to have you back. It's been about 2 years since the last time we were on here, so we will not repeat that in the future. We will keep it to a year and a half at minimum, something like that. So we love having our guests here. We're going to be having some fun time getting into some discussions. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure you're dropping in the chat. We want to hear your thoughts on these stories. When we start our Know or No segment, you need to let us know, do you want to know more? Is it a no thank you for you? Let us know your thoughts throughout the show. Even Kevin Farrell, you mowing the lawn. That's kind of my move. I love a good podcast and or a good stream when I'm mowing the lawn. So I hope, remember, you're going to be mulching when lawn pickup day is. Make sure you use the right bags. Don't get in trouble there. If you're listening to this as a podcast, remember you can join us live each and every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, whether you're doing yard work or not. Just go to the events page at CISOseries.com and look for the Department of Know, or send us some email, feedback at CISOseries.com. We would love to read one on the show. Before we get into any of the discussions here, just a reminder that all the opinions expressed on the show are those of our guests and myself, not necessarily those of any of our employers. Let's get right into the news. We got to start out with our favorite segment, a little something we like to call Know or No. No! All right. This is where we run through 4 to 6 stories from the past week, and I want a quick take. Is this something security professionals need to know about, or is it more noise than signal? First up here, OpenAI Atlas browser hijacked. Researchers have discovered a new attack vector for OpenAI's Atlas web browser, where it can be tricked into executing malicious prompts disguised as seemingly harmless URLs, allowing attackers to redirect users, steal credentials, or even delete files from connected apps. The flaw stems from Atlas failing to strictly separate trusted user input from untrusted content. Whoopsie, a common weakness in these kinds of browsers. Davi, from you, is this? Do you need to know a little more about this, or is it no thanks, nothing to see here?
Well, my problem is that this is such an old problem. It goes back to the 1800s even, and we've known about it forever. I think it was established, even the Morris worm had some of the same issues. So, boy, there's nothing to see here because this is such a dumb mistake that they made. I think it's fundamentally the same class of vulnerability that plagued the early browsers, and that's why we have content security policies. It's why we have origin-based trust. And I guess they just forgot how the internet works.
Rob, for you, is this know a little more or no thanks for you?
Well, it's a combination. I agree with Davi on it, but I would also say that it's really good to have some due diligence on even the latest and shiny new thing. So if you have a shiny new thing and you're thinking they must have done their checks on their own, it's always great to double check the double checkers and have your own team that validates those kinds of stuff. But I agree with Davi on it.
All right, the more you know. All right, next up here, Microsoft may have a solution to the impending doom that is the very familiar blue screen of death. We know it as the good old BSOD. They're testing a new Windows 11 feature that prompts users to run a memory scan after a BSOD to catch potential memory issues before they cause more crashes. The proactive memory diagnostics run during the next reboot and notify users if issues are found and mitigated. The feature is now rolling out to Windows insiders in the dev and beta channels. All right, Rob, know a little more about this or no thanks from you?
No thanks. I mean, this sounds like something that would just come out with as a firmware patch. It shouldn't be breaking news.
No. All right, Davi, from you, is this know a little more or no thanks?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on the same. Like, I just feel like this isn't actually what the headline says it is. It's not a fix. They're doing a reactive measure instead of integrating like continuous memory scrubbing or like normal, ECC validation type stuff. Like they're admitting that they have a problem in memory, but they're not actually fixing it. They're not actually preventing it. They're detecting it and then doing a bunch of investigations after the fact. It means their stuff's too complicated. They don't understand their own stuff, but they know that the problem's in memory.
Yeah, I was saying before the show. I mean, maybe 30 years ago, I would have been like, "Yeah, they got a chance." The B-sides. The only way they can solve this is they just change the color, right? They've tried that a couple of times to be sneaky. Oh, it's a green screen now. Okay, but yeah, not okay. I'm glad we're all on accord here. Next story here: F5 says a recent nation-state breach that we have definitely covered on cybersecurity headlines had limited customer impact. They've kind of already been saying this, that some customers were impacted, but they disclosed at least some broadly what types of things were accessed. Attackers accessed source code, configuration data, and 44 undisclosed vulnerabilities, which does sound like a lot, but most affected customers report that stolen data isn't sensitive. Davi, do we need to know a little more, or no thanks?
I would love to know more, because I feel like F5 has sort of leaked the whole source code secret sauce now, and the attackers know more than F5 probably knows about their own code base. So you probably want to dig in, figure out what's going on, because when they say limited impact, that's a relative term. I mean,
that is not a fiscal term for sure.
Yeah, it could have been everything but the last bit of code, and that's limited, but it's still everything.
All right, Rob, for you, know a little more or no thanks?
Definitely know a little more. I mean, whenever someone says, well, it wasn't important data, that just throws up all kinds of red flags, because it could have been. And so they try, obviously they're in damage control, and they try to minimize that kind of thing. But whenever you have something like this happen, it's 44 vulnerabilities. I mean, it's a pretty large scale mistake. It's hard to overcome that.
I would always also like to comment that I love when they say it wasn't important data, as if the criminals don't want the important data. They purposely want to go after the unimportant data. So
it is a bad choice of words.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, most companies don't know what they have, so they're just going off probability, right? That it's not valuable here. All right, next up here, this is kind of our vibe check for where we are with like agentic AI in cybersecurity. Palo Alto Networks has launched Cortex Agentics, a suite of AI agents that investigates threats and responds to email breaches. CEO Nikesh Arora said that these tools are designed to meet rising demand for automation amid increasingly complex attacks, with most agents still needing those pesky humans to review it. Rob, for you, know a little more or no thanks?
It's worth knowing, right? Because what you see now more and more in the trend is they'll say, well, we're going to release this cyber agent and it's going to do everything for us. But really what we see organizationally in the future is a human actually running dozens, 50, maybe 100 agents. So now you're sort of the orchestrator of all of this. So the more and more innovation that comes out, I'm interested in learning more. Every time something new comes out, I'm interested on what they're trying to innovate on. There is a lot of noise in this area because everyone's saying they have the same thing. So when something comes out, they say they're innovating. I'm very interested to learn more about it, because I think the structure of our organizations are changing how we actually staff and everything else when it comes to our executive suites in leading IT organizations.
Davi, where are you at? Do you need to know a little more or no thanks? You're still waiting on this one.
Yeah, I've done so much AI work over the last 10 years. I just feel like this is a no thanks for me. It's like adding a toddler to your SOAR strategy and then having to manage, or maybe even a group of toddlers to your SOAR strategy and having to manage them in your playbooks. Or another way of looking at it is sometimes you want complexity and you want chaos. Like if you took those 44 vulnerabilities that were leaked at F5 and said, can you chain them together and make me 88, or can you make me, 144 out of them? AI is good at that. But if you go into a place where you want to have real good visibility and really understand what's going on, high integrity, AI is the last thing I would add to that equation. And if you have to have a human in the loop, it's because you're not really automating anything. You're just turning on the blender without the lid on top and seeing if it splatters your kitchen.
Thanks for everybody for joining in our chat here, and let us know. Do you want to know a little bit more about these stories as we're going through? Are you saying no, thank you? We want your input on this, not just our panelists. We need to know from you as well. Like this one was definitely a hot button issue on the social media, and you'll find out why. As of today, that is November 3rd, Microsoft and LinkedIn will start using profile details. So that's public posts, feed activity data, and more from users in the UK, EU, Switzerland, Canada, and Hong Kong to train its artificial intelligence model models, as well as to support personalized ads across the broader family of Microsoft companies. This is a big old happy family there. Private messages will not be used, so all of your MBA offers are off limits for training, thank God. Additional data from LinkedIn will also be shared with other Microsoft-related business entities for the purpose of serving up more personalized and relevant ads. A reminder, everything is an ad tech play if you play it out long enough. Davi, for you, know a little more about this or no thanks?
This is super important because I don't think this is a real line when they say this is the day that you opt out and after this you can't. I think the actual story is you should be able to opt out any day you want from now on into the future. And it's, for me, disgusting that they would even make this argument that this is a line that they can keep. And in fact, it's super cynical because they already carved out the EU and the UK and Switzerland initially so that they could avoid the entire GDPR problem. And now they're trying to like come back around and scoop it up anyway. It's just totally disingenuous. I think LinkedIn is in the doghouse.
No.
I believe this sums up your reaction here,
No.
Davi.
No.
All right, Rob, for you, where are you at?
no,
Do you need to know a little more or no thanks?
No.
You know, I'm with Davi on this simply because they're already doing it. It's disingenuous completely. They say, "Oh, we're going to be expanding or doing this and that," and there's so many privacy violations that are happening where you're not getting the opportunity to consent. And this is going to be what the future is about: is what consent looks like for business enterprises and individual users, because it's happening without us even knowing about it. So they're saying it, but as far as we know, they could have already been doing it.
Amish Runaway in our chat here had a question on the story. Do I need to opt out? I mean, I would say if you care about how your data is used on that from that particular platform, I mean, obviously, I would say, or if you really care about the ad experience across the Microsoft family of products and you're passionate about that,
100%.
Feel free to, feel free
You
to
absolutely should
opt in.
You absolutely should
Okay.
opt out. There's no reason to opt in. In fact, there's risk of opting in. So until they give you a valid reason to opt in, I would absolutely opt out. And if you're lucky, they will actually opt you out and delete your profile for you. So consider yourself lucky when they come around and say your profile's gone.
All right, and our last one here. This past week, the FCC announced plans to remove some cybersecurity regulations that have been put in place after Chinese hackers breached at least 9 telecommunication giants to steal the correspondence of the president and vice president last year. FCC Secretary Marlene Dorsch said that the telcos have already taken voluntary steps to secure their networks and that the ruling was legally erroneous. Rob, for you, know a little more or no thanks on this one?
I'd like to know a little more specifically on exactly how they were able to penetrate those telecom networks.
Yeah, that's the $50,000 question. Davi, same for you. Know a little more, or you say no thanks on this one?
Absolutely no more. I mean, this is the foxes saying, watch us in the hen house, we'll be fine. Voluntary is the way things are going forward. And we know from the past, voluntary never worked. NERC, FERC, the whole problem with the government regulations is the voluntary systems were a failure. You have to have external enforcement. And the idea that they called the declaratory ruling, I'm not a lawyer, but they called it erroneous, makes no sense to me. They absolutely have authority under Title II. They absolutely have a responsibility. And it seems like they're just playing political games. We need the enforcement. We need the regulations. That's the only way to innovate, is to get the regulations.
Yeah.
Because it's mind-boggling to you, yeah.
Not only that, right, is it helps us as security professionals on having a better defensive posture. Like if we don't know what they're doing, then we're next. Enterprise is next, right? Well, they obviously attack the telcos. They're an enterprise, but the more we know, the better we can defend ourselves.
But no, that is I'm sure on top of mind for a lot of security teams out there. Yeah, getting, hey, let's not just be another target. What can we learn? What can we learn from this? I think should definitely be the lesson we can hopefully take away from this. And
we know. We know absolutely. Like when we, the whole FERC NERC nonsense was because they didn't want to go ahead with the NIST standards as they were and create their own and then do voluntary. And that just turned into a huge, massive mess where the utilities are just completely insecure. And so we know this doesn't work. The voluntary method is going to take us down a horrible path. So it's just disingenuous. It's regulatory capture, basically. People don't want to do the hard work of cleaning up their environment. They say we'll do it voluntarily, and then they don't do it.
All right, we're going to dive into some other stories for a deeper discussion in just a moment. But before we do so, we have to spend a few moments and thank our sponsor for today, and that is ThreatLocker. Cyber criminals don't knock. They sneak in through the cracks other tools miss. That's why organizations are turning to ThreatLocker. As a zero trust endpoint protection platform, ThreatLocker puts you back in control, blocking what doesn't belong and stopping attacks before they spread. Zero trust security starts here with ThreatLocker. Get started at threatlocker.com. That's ThreatLocker.com. All right, let's dive into some other stories, some other news that we want to take maybe a deeper look here. Microsoft postponed a planned Azure network security change to March 2026 after feedback from customers who were concerned it would disrupt apps dependent on public internet access. The update will make private subnets the default for new virtual networks, blocking automatic outbound connections to the internet to align with zero trust principles. Existing networks won't be impacted, but experts warn firms to prepare now or risk broken workloads once the change takes effect. Azure, has had a few issues this year, and any major modifications to network infrastructure seem to offer fertile ground for problems, possibly an additional opening for persistent cyber criminals. Anytime you're disrupting a business process or an IT process, always room for miscommunication there. I'm curious, Rob, let's start with you here. Do you agree with the decision made by Microsoft to delay this, or are they always going to be kicking this can down the road?
Oh, well, I agree with what they're doing for sure. It needs to be done. It's difficult from a security perspective. They shouldn't delay, but it should be immediate, right? Because the longer they wait, the more vulnerable they're going to be. But they're also having to make a business decision on, hey, what is this going to cost us? So it's a little bit of a catch-22. They've put themselves in an adversarial situation, but it's definitely the right thing to do. Whether or not they want to move quickly on it, I would actually, if they're smart, they would incentivize people, like you get a discount if you can move faster. Something like this, because then it'd be a win-win type of thing. Like, hey, we're delaying this, but if you can move faster, then we're going to incentivize your licensing next year, or something like along these lines, where you're doing both the right thing to do from a security perspective, and then you incentivize businesses to do the right thing. Just like previously, we were saying people don't volunteer generally for things unless it's enforced. The reverse of that is if you incentivize them. So I think that would be something smart for Microsoft to do in this scenario.
Yeah, make it easier to make that business use case, right? Hey, we could save X amount off our bottom line here. Davi, you're smiling. Are we being Pollyannas?
We
here?
are being Pollyanna.
Is this too? Are we being so sweet?
No. I love the idea of nudge and giving people a incentive to do the right thing. And I think this is absolutely the right thing to do. I mean, it sort of exposes that they were doing the wrong thing, and it's good of them to admit that and try to make it better. But I've been deep in the weeds of cloud forever, and I mean, front door is a nightmare. It's spaghetti. It's absolute spaghetti to try to get Azure's networking working. And the outages recently are an example of that. They have all kinds of breaking production workloads. So on the one hand, it's like, give people an incentive to do the right thing early. But on the other hand, like, how would they know if it was working? It's such a mess anyway. Azure is such a chaotic mess compared to other clouds. But I think this is definitely something for people to dig into, because they should get to know their networks. They should get to know their exposure. They should know their traffic. And so if it breaks their stuff because their apps are connected and they didn't know that, well, now they know, and that's good.
Exactly.
Is this like, this just seems like the constant, every decision Microsoft makes that could potentially improve security, they always have to, like, they can't change a feature in Excel, right? Because it breaks the workloads of 100,000 businesses or something like that, right? Is this always the constant tension? Like, I'm surprised that they had to boot it out, or is this almost part of their roadmap now, right? Announce the thing, then announce the delay because you know that it's going to cause a whole bunch of Sturm und Drang about this?
Well, it's really economics. I mean, you could engineer it in a way that was a soft landing. You could have traffic flow somewhere and then be slowly cut off and give people reports. You could build in a whole infrastructure. It gave people like report cards, and that would tell them that they need to do these things in order to be compliant. It'd be awesome, but they just don't want to spend the money to do it right in that sense. And they're trying to make a hard turn because it gets them into a safer, their customers and them into a safer posture. And who bears the cost is a good question, and why. That's an economics issue.
All right, next up here, we're seeing some more impact from the hack of Marks and Spencer in the UK. We saw a rash of UK retail hacks over the last year, but British clothing retailer Next reports that it was continuing to see sales overperform in the wake of the cyber attack on its rival Marks and Spencer, and it credits favorable weather conditions, always clutch for retail sales, and competitor disruption, resulting in a 7.6% surge in sales in the first half of the year. According to reports from analytics company Kantar, Marks and Spencer rivals have that had an online presence. So we're talking like Zara, H&M, Sainsbury, all experienced a sales uplift, while clothing retailers without a significant online presence did not. Kind of pointing to, hey, turns out when a commodity is not available, you go buy another commodity. This is a topic I don't think we talk enough about, in kind of the knock-on effects to cybersecurity, the advantage that a major breach gives to competitors. Davi, from your perspective, should CISOs factor this in maybe to like high-level strategic decisions? Obviously, this depends on the market, right? If you're AWS and you have an outage, the cost to move to Azure, Google Cloud, or anything like that is a lot higher than buying clothes from another retailer. But like, where do these kind of conversations factor in?
Yeah, you absolutely have to talk about this. This is a big one, but I think I kind of hate this story because, I'm an old hackback guy. I'm going back a long way. And the market incentives here are totally messed up. I mean, if as a CISO, if you could incentivize your own team to go and hack your competitor to get double benefits, they go down and your sales go up, boy, this is going to be hard. It's an ethical discussion. And it's terrible to see this. I mean, what you want is industry-wide baseline security standards, competitors helping each other, right? Like banks help each other when there's a criminal fraud. You don't actually send, bank robbers into your competitor's bank to rob them. It's so that you have more customers. So I don't like it. Failures are supposed to create reputational damage, not competitive advantages. So the market's not working if we have this race to the bottom.
Rob, where are these conversations happening for you in terms of competitive effects of these types of cyber attacks?
I have a little bit of a different take on it. For years, we always talk when you're doing security and IT budgets that particularly the security budget is that it's a big OpEx cost, that there's not a whole lot of revenue comes out of it. It's just a giant cost for an organization. And we've said for years, well, there is a cost, and there's different formulas that you can plug in to show. For example, if there's ransomware and you're down, you could say, well, this is costing us every day that we're down, there's a cost. So there's lots of formulas for that. But it is interesting, depending on what industry you're in. If you're in a competitive industry in retail or some other thing that you're selling and you go down, now there's something happens with a breach. Now you can show, hey, look at how much this is costing our competition. And it's a discussion at the board level, I think, that I might have if I'm asking for more money year over year, because there's not a whole lot of statistics out there on stuff like this. It's mostly on we were ransomed and it cost us a lot of money, or we were struck by lightning, there was a flood or a hurricane and it cost us a lot of money, or there was some kind of a problem when we moved things from dev to production, it broke things, it cost us a lot of money. But not the competition thing on, by the way, because we were down, all of our competitors are taking our market share. And that's a separate conversation. So I think it's an interesting conversation to have.
I will say, I will add, we do know that in boom years, the security spend tends to go down because the upside is so good. So people don't need to spend money on security. But in the down years, when the upside is gone, people spend a lot of money on security in order to keep the loss in check. And so this is a perversion of that in a way that if you can say, why do you spend any money on security at all if we're the last one standing because they're down, right? They're hacked. So we have more upside. So it's dangerous here where we see.
Yeah, that's like, I just need to be faster than the slowest person when the bear is chasing me.
Exactly.
Yeah, like that. Wow, that is like the cybersecurity nihilism. That that is tremendous. I see this story reminded me of frequent CISO series co-host Steve Zalewski, former CISO over at Levi Strauss, and his question is always, how does this help us sell more jeans? And it would be maybe keep your online presence online. That would definitely help you sell more jeans. So Steve, always have to give the jeans some shout outs there. I don't know if Marks and Spencer sells Levi's, so not that he cares anymore. But anyway, our next story here to dive into, we already talked a little bit about some OpenAI stuff, but OpenAI's Aardvark GPT-5 agent finds and fixes code flaws automatically. This autonomous agent, currently available in private beta, works by embedding itself into the software development pipeline, monitoring commits and changes to code bases, detecting security issues and how they might be exploited, and proposes fixes to address them using LLM-based reasoning and tool use. OpenAI added Aardvark analyzes a project's code base to produce a threat model that it thinks best represents its security objectives and design. With this contextual foundation, the agent then scans its history to identify existing issues as well as detect new ones by scrutinizing incoming changes to the repository. This sounds interesting. This is, I always think AI stories like this is like a turtle stacking stories where it becomes turtles all the way down here. Rob, we already talked about what Palo Alto is doing with some of their agents and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on this when you see stuff like this?
I'll tell you, it makes me a little bit nervous, simply because you can have tools like this that automate it for you, but if it's all automated, then you're going to have the adversary doing the same thing. So it's like a giant tug of war. Now, if you're using it to fix human errors, then I think it's great, right? The more that you can use things like that to fix your human errors, like if you make a typo. And I know there's lots of code writing software programs that help you along the lines with that. Sure that this ChatGPT agent was even more advanced, but at the same time, when you're using it like that, you're always opening yourself up for the adverse happening to you.
Yeah, and there's some ellipses doing some heavy work in the chat here. We have Amish Runway going, this sounds super helpful. Kevin Farrell says, this sounds, interesting. Davi, how many ellipses are you putting into your chat response here?
I'm not a fan of what OpenAI is doing right now. I feel like it's a rehash of what Palantir did, where they created the terrorists and then they build you to find the people that they were creating. And it's sort of similar in the sense that, they're out there saying on the one hand, OpenAI has problems they can't fix. Our security is so bad. We're just pushing out products that are fully flawed. And then they're saying, hey, we have the best tools to find the flaws and we can fix them. And I do not believe any of the marketing right now when they say they've got a sandbox environment or it's just glorified fuzzing. And we know they can't properly represent a true environment. They don't have the proper environmental conditions and they don't have the really multi-step exploitations. We've seen this marketing in the past for at least 10, maybe 15 years. It doesn't turn out the way people say it's going to turn out. Instead, it's just a lot of hype and marketing. And it's worse because they're also, on the other hand, releasing the vulnerabilities themselves that they're claiming to be finding.
Yes.
The one part that is interesting to me, right, is the idea that it can create a model essentially that it thinks like it best represents its security objectives and design, in that so many design decisions are kind of a lack of decision making, right? There are things that passively, it's like technical debt you're not even realizing you're making, like over time, right? You're just, we're doing something for expediency or for whatever reason. Like, I like the idea of something being able to say, here's how this is designed. Is this what you wanted? The next step beyond that, though, of taking action based on that foundation is actually what freaks me out the most, because it's like, if I'm not even aligned with my own with what you think my own security design is, that to me is like freaks me out, because that seems like it's compounding. If I wasn't even designing this and it's just kind of floating by passively, I would rather fix that than have you make implementations based on something I might not have explicitly agreed to as a design process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, there's a long history of false positive rates, missing actual exploitable bugs. If you're going to trust this, you have to first build that trust on something that's meaningful. You can't just say it's going to be better in the future. We've seen repeatedly where people say AI is going to be better in the future because you should believe that, and it's not actually true. It gets worse. And the latest research shows that if you expose these things to bad data, it's not only going to get worse, but you can't unfix it. That's back to the LinkedIn story. Like if you poison the thing, it has a detrimental value that can't be unfixed, like a 20% burn. So you have to go in thinking, I'm going to give it super high quality, curated, specific information about what I'm really looking for. And then I have to really manage those prompts carefully. But nobody's doing that. And they might not even open the tool to that level of engineering. And so you're basically paying them for problems that they're then going to charge you more to find. Again, it's like Palantir created the terrorists and then tried to bill people to find them. It's awful.
All right, before we get out of here today, we're looking at everything kind of in the past week of news, what we've discussed, just kind of what's out there in the ether. Is there any story, either, again, like we covered or just in the news in the past week, Rob, for you, that was either just a giant facepalm for you or you want to give a big thumbs up to? Is there anything you just you just had a super strong reaction to it this past week?
I would say there was nothing that really struck me too strong this week. It was sort of a calamity of errors, right? It's interesting to see when you see all these security things happening, and it's not super sophisticated. It's just people making human mistakes. And so that's always a question that plagues me. Like, how could have someone missed this? So a lot of it's linchpin type of things, and it is palm in the face. How did this get missed? Now, some of them are very compelling, and they do draw my attention, like the one we're talking about with the photon, with doing the encryption.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't have time for that today, but yes,
that
some
one has
interesting
definitely
encryption
caught
stuff.
my attention. So it's not necessarily something going wrong, but something that I think in our industry that's forthcoming that's going to be incredible. So I'm anxious to learn more about this new form of encryption. It's really going to be an incredible story.
Yeah, I mean, Davi, for you, was that something that had caught your eye this week, or was there anything else in this week that I think we had a couple facepalm candidates for you, but I want to hear it from you.
Well, I mean, I like talking about the photonic encryption because it reminds me of FDDI, which I loved. FDDI was an amazing specialized hardware, every endpoint, dedicated fiber lines. It was like awesome, but nobody wanted to pay the $1,000 per endpoint to get it working. And so the only place I ever really deployed it was around MRI machines where the magnet was so big we couldn't use copper. It would kill all of our networks. So it's really good for specialized implementations, but it's also incredibly expensive. I don't think it's practical or realistic for anybody. The thing that really got me, I have a lot of inbound this week about the Tesla case, because apparently the judge has ruled recently that they've been intentionally corrupting, polluting evidence and withholding data from these cars. These are data centers on wheels, essentially. And so people are asking, like, man, tell us what's really going on in these cars. So I did a bunch of research and wrote up how to reverse engineer or hack your way into those data centers and get the data you need out of the logs so you can tell what's really happening and prove that the crashes are as I said in 2016, I think the algorithms are killing people, and I think that's more true now than ever.
They certainly have more sway over our day to day, seemingly every single day, more and more so. So yeah, thank you for sharing that, Davi, and thank you, Rob, both for doing a stupendous job on this edition of the Department of No. Thanks to everyone also in our chats. We're blowing minds here. Amish Runaway is just, I don't know if it would be the same. I do hope you come back for maybe more mind-blowing content next week at 4 p.m. Eastern. And Kevin Farrell, I hope, did you skip the edging? I hope you didn't skip the edging. I like a nice, clean line on the sidewalk there. But thank you so much, Davi Ottenheimer, the VP of Digital Trust and Ethics at Inrupt, and Rob Teal, Field CTO over at GigaHome. We'll have links to their LinkedIn if one, you want to opt out of that training data set, and two, find out more about them. We'll have links to Davi's blog there as well. Thanks also to our sponsor, ThreatLocker. Assume everything is a threat. And thanks to, again, our live audience here both on LinkedIn and on YouTube here. Be sure you're joining us each and every Monday at 4 p.m. We would love to have you in the chat, sharing your thoughts, helping us out with no or no. It is always a fun time. And if you can't join us live, you can send us an email, feedback@cisoseries.com. We'll be back next Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern, for another edition of the Department of No. For more details on that, go to the events page at cisoseries.com. And if you still need your daily news fix every single day, you can catch cybersecurity headlines. Give us about 6 minutes. We'll get you all caught up. Until the next time we meet, for myself, for our glorious producer, Steve Prentice, for the big boss man, David Spark, for Davi and Rob, and all of the CISO series, here's wishing you and yours to have a super sparkly day.
Cybersecurity headlines are available every weekday. Head to CISOseries.com for the full stories behind the headlines.